talata lungo June karo tili muang anin nani 2025 kabondi kibaro network ngal bismillah momo itoni konton kendo wal nal badi ma pamane motanan ka kibaro sambale nan kibaro to albamo ila patili dan secretary general of United Democratic Party Alaji Usenu Darboe afele a kacha jango muyalon kai woleke aning Peter Gomez West Coast Radio nataka wo kacha le sambale nan kuma kan muyalon kai wolefo patila karola bankola karola anim fana funding kele mulyalan kolle be patiya kono andi si kejji ki moldi nyim banko kan isi seyno fananga noto adi amta wo kola kumo jama mulyalan kay wolle sata albamo la nyin kacha kono meduno kacha kono kala muy kuma kan wala min fo kola snanga jibero ki afunya min nakal tentu kali jayi kal nimbaral nal badi ma pamane ala barka ba jala la muy kunyima.
It's 9 minutes past 9 o'clock and someone who's been patiently waiting in the studio for the past 9 minutes is Alhaji Usenu Darboe. We all know him as Lawyer Darboe, the leader and Secretary General of the main opposition United Democratic Party. Alhaji Usenu, welcome back to West Coast Radio, Coffee Time with Peter Gomez.
Thank you very much, Peter, for hosting me again on a program that I follow every day. It's my favorite program.
I tell everybody.
Yes.
I tell everybody. Thanks for coming. We have a lot to ask about the UDP, but before we get there, I want to start with the President's State of the Nation address. It's an event I suppose you attend, you try to attend every year. I'm not sure about this year. Were you in the National Assembly to hear it again?
Oh, yes. I attended. I honored the invitation that was extended to me to attend. After all, this is a national event.
It is,
it's not a party political event, but it's an event. So I was there because my stand is always that, if I occupy that office, I would like to see my colleagues on the political terrain attend such an occasion. So I should not really keep away from national events. I don't get myself absent from it.
You're being very modest. You're saying, if I occupy, I know your lieutenants who insist when you occupy.
Well, certainly.
Yeah. And how do you react? Earlier on, we heard from Mai Ahmed Fati, we heard from Bakari Baji, and we also heard from one of your own MPs, Fatmata Cham. What's your, what's your reaction to the State of the Nation address, the SONA?
Well, it was certainly a checklist of a propaganda agenda. This, I can see that, he is starting a campaign for the 2026 presidential elections. The paragraphs, of me, there was a lot of vagueness in some of them, and in fact, some areas that it dealt with, I think, more could have been said what the government intends to do. And one area that concerns me more, or that I'm interested more, is really the area of foreign affairs, foreign policy. And I'm interested in it for the reason that our president is the chairman of the OIC. And in this day, when the world is in turmoil, I think this is the time that he must stand up as chairman of the OIC.
Well, didn't he? He called for peace to return to the Middle East.
That is really sitting in the Gambian National Assembly and calling for peace to return to the Middle East. As chairman, he ought to do more than that. As chairman, he ought to engage others. And like the world leaders,
If this war had broken out when you were still Minister of Foreign Affairs, what would have been your role? If the president had, taken no move as foreign minister, what would you have done?
Well, the person really in charge of foreign policy is the president. That is what the Constitution provides for.
Okay.
The foreign minister is just the senior ambassador.
Okay.
So it would be. I would urge him. I would advise him that what steps we should take. I would ask him.
So when people apportion blame to Dr. Mamadou Tangara, they are targeting the wrong person?
Well, in my view, they are targeting the wrong person. Okay. Because Tangara is certainly the most senior ambassador. Yeah? If I were in his position, first place, as chairman of the OIC, I would get the African group, the AU, to really partner with me in seeking for solution, not only to the Iran-Israel thing. In fact, the Iran-Israel thing could probably have been averted. We would make sure that the Gaza issue is handled. And he should be approaching the issue not as president of the Gambia, but as chairman of the OIC.
Of course.
Because if he does approach it as president of the Gambia, people would like to say, but what political weight does he have? But then, as chairman of the OIC, he has a lot of political weight.
Yeah, 57 nations behind him.
57 nations behind. And that is the situation I think he ought to have exploited. You remember there was a time I called on him that the situation in fact, which was brewing up in the Middle East and also Sudan, and Myanmar, I called upon him that he should step up and do something.
Why do you think he is not stepping up?
Well, I really do not want to guess. I really do not want to guess. But then, the response then coming was that, look, this is a troika. It should be a troika event or initiative. The current president, chairman, the incoming chairman, and the past chairman they should work together in it. And when I heard that, I said, but look, yes, you may be right, but who should trigger it? I think he's the one who should trigger it. He is the chairman. So he should get the past president and the incoming president, tell them, look, we should get together and do these things for the sake of the Muslim Ummah. We appreciate very much the position that the Gambia has taken as far as the issue in Myanmar is concerned. But that is the legal approach. There should also be political approach to it, so that you have these, and then, we are so well placed to pursue that. But I think it's a missed opportunity, and I think that will really have stamped his mark on the wall.
Again, he trumpeted the Gambia's hosting of the OIC summit. To him, this was a successful event. The opposition has consistently, criticized our hosting as a failure, because out of 57 heads of state, it's only the 6 from the usual countries that joined him in Banjul. So he sees it as a success. The opposition says it's not successful. What's your take on that?
Well, my take on it is that certainly it was not successful. I think his emissaries should have done more to lobby, well, not necessarily lobby, but to impress on member states that this is their conference. Gambia is hosting it, and any failure in the organization is a failure for the entire organization. I think his ambassador should have gone out and sell out and make sure that all member states attend. Look, when we were there, by Lamin Job, myself, Lamin Sane, we had this grandiose, very big idea. We are even thinking that some of the kings, the Arab kings, could come in their yachts and have at Banjul and then drive from Banjul to the conference center. All these were things that we thought should happen.
Do you think if you had continued as foreign minister, that would have happened?
Well, I may not get them to come in their yachts, but certainly would have got them attend, a huge number of them attend. And my particular disappointment was that, even in the sub-region, there was a singular absence of the presidents. At least.
Which one?
Nigeria was singularly absent. Because when I say singularly absent, I'm not saying that there was no representation. But we expected.
Yeah.
Tinubu. In fact, we expect all the presidents in the sub-region to attend. In fact, all the presidents in Africa to attend, because Gambia, as the African country, because this is rotation, so it happened Africa's tongue. Gambia was really hosting this. So for me, it wasn't a success. And I good. There was an event, side event organized. I think, okay, that is the business. I think the investment forum.
Yeah.
That was organized a side event. I think that was good. But then, how much results did you have from it, particularly for the Gambia? Because it was just not enough to organize an investment forum, but to organize it with an objective of getting investors into your country. Have we done a lot to sell the Gambia to those who attended that investment forum? I think, if I have said that even before I left, that look, we have to really try to redefine the objectives of the OIC. It should not just be, a meeting of Islamic states, come pass a resolution on Palestine, condemn what is happening in the Middle East, and then we disperse. It should be more than that.
Well,
we should also look at the economic and social conditions of the member states. We should really be in a position, to convince our Arab-rich brothers that instead of investing all these $1 billion, $1 billion in France, in America, in UK, in Europe, why don't you bring it to the countries where you have a larger Muslim population so that they can also grow? We want to tell them that, let us assist each other so that we stop being beggars. That has been, these are ideas that, I just toy with Lamisan and tell us that, these are things that we should discuss, and so that we could have a topic design a topic that will be the main theme. And we suggest it to the organization. That should be the main theme of the conference.
Okay.
Because you want.
So, as host country, you can, decide the agenda.
Well, we should because as host country, we should tell them that look, can we really discuss this?
Let's go back to the SONA. What other areas, do you have an opinion on or opinions on? Fatmata Cham spoke about women. Bakari Baji spoke about electricity. Fatmata also spoke about electricity.
Well, yes. Well, of course, electricity. We see poles being erected all over the country, with wires, and I know that in some places they have gone to dump meters on them, and in some cases they say free. Of course, we know what all that means, because
what does that all mean? I don't think.
Well, it's an incentive for it's incentive really for the 2026 presidential elections.
Well, erect your own polls.
Unfortunately, we do not control the polls. If we were controlling the polls, we would have applied those resources in a more meaningful manner that will impact positively on the lives of the people. But look, Peter, how can you give meters to people free when NAWEC is in such a dire situation? Because NAWEC must have spent money in acquiring those meters.
Well, they tell us that these are World Bank funded. There's a project precisely for that.
Look, World Bank funded. World Bank doesn't give to say, look, give to people free. World Bank would do that for food and so forth. But after all, NAWEC is supposed to be a profit-making organization.
Yes.
So World Bank will give them those meters to put it on the market so that they could really build up their profits, so that they do not have to source for local funds to do that. So for me, it's just that's just an excuse that World Bank gave us this. After all, don't we get free rice from Japan? Yet we sell them. Sell them. Yeah. So really, it's just propaganda. But what is more, at least last week, I have been experiencing power outages. Been experiencing.
Everybody has.
So what is all this pump about electricity all over the country?
90%. By the end of this year, 90% coverage.
Well, I think it is quite easy for politicians to make promises, and especially when the person who is making the promise, there's no opportunity for the listener to really engage him on the spot. So you can make any promises and walk away.
Is that what you think Barrow did on Thursday?
Well, absolutely. But how many times have been having promises about that electricity problem in this country will be resolved forever? How many times have you had that promise?
At first,
from Jammeh?
At first, the universal access should have been, attained in 2025. Now it's what, 2027?
Well, yes, 2027. Because when the promise was made, there was really no concrete plan. This was just things coming off their heads.
Well, they actually had an electricity roadmap.
You can have a roadmap. I remember when I was cabinet, Fafa Sanyang, did design.
Exactly, he was the minister at the time.
Yes, did design. I do remember that, did design a roadmap, But that roadmap, have you followed it? Because if you had followed that roadmap by now, we wouldn't have been bothered about the withdrawal of car power.
This would have been.
We wouldn't have been bothered with the Senelec issues. But because the roadmap was not followed, probably the technicians designed it properly and with an objective of achieving a good result. But then when came to implementation, things didn't materialize.
Gambia's Achilles heel, implementation.
Implementation, yeah. Of course, after I listened to the address, I was going to say, when the president came to shake my hand, I was going to say, Adama road infrastructure. but that would have been humor. But then I cannot do it with the people.
Yeah, and then the media would pick it up and blow it out of proportion.
Out of proportion.
So when you shook hands, what was the exchange like?
No, of course. What is usual among Gambians, exchange pleasantries. How is our family? We are all doing fine. Those sort of exchanges, and. What really baffled me was why the cameras were so interested.
Well, these are the two most powerful politicians in the country.
No, but for them, I believe, it was for some other reason.
Yeah.
For some other reason, which I think we should.
They were looking for a slip of the tongue.
I think we should really be looking to things that are more substantive, more beneficial, But then me shaking hands with Barrow, you have all over in the social media.
Well, you should expect that everywhere the two of you, meet.
Yes.
So okay,
but agriculture, Peter.
Yes.
You see, all these monies that have been spent on the road infrastructure. If you take 3/4 of that and inject it in agriculture, we would by now have been near food self-sufficiency. And your next step, having attained food sufficiency, your next step would be to export so that you have a return on your investment. This $75 million currency swap, I would have taken 50 million of that, injected in agriculture.
Well, is agriculture not getting more than 50 million?
But you need more. You need more. Because for it to be food self-sufficient, we need to invest more in agriculture. And when I say more in agriculture, I just don't mean that you have the department, of agriculture, but then help the farmers. Let the funds be available to the farmers.
Well, they are giving subsidized fertilizer. They are giving seeds at the commencement of every agricultural season and all of that. That is helping, isn't it?
But what quality of seeds? Fertilizer, they say they're subsidized. Well, we've seen our neighbors who have given fertilizer free. Why can't we do that? If that $50 million that I'm talking about, if you use part of that to give free fertilizer to the farming community. If they have, you would have done a lot for them. But again, you see, these are priorities. Just they said, as the going saying goes, seeing is believing. They say people to the road. But the time it takes for Gambia to graduate from, rice importer, it will take time. No one will see that.
Okay.
So you cannot use that as a propaganda tool.
But economists also tell us that, road networks, infrastructure, investing in them has, direct benefits on the economy.
I agree. No one can argue against that, But, there's a proverb. I had a Mandinka proverb from one of
You can say it in Mandinka.
Now
we are very flexible when it comes to language.
Well, when I saw Seku and Taf, when they come here, they speak here. Kemisen Jame, he made a profound statement one time. He said, look, silo mukonola toileti. That is to say, you have to have enough food before you concentrate on roads.
Of course.
So that is why we say we are not in any way downplaying the fact that we do need roads and good roads too. But we are saying that feed the people first, because you have roads that cannot be used when people are hungry. They're starving. What's a good road to him? What's the use of a good road to him? But no one is downplaying it. And we want to say that we should encourage. That is why I said that from that $75 million, I would take $50 million and put it in agriculture, and the 25 million in road projects. Yeah.
Given your thoughts and the thoughts of people like Fatmata Cham and Bakari Baji on the State of the Nation address, is it time the National Assembly made SONAs something of a scorecard? The president coming and reporting on levels of implementation, achievements of promises made, in the last SONA. For instance, this thing about electricity. We could come back, next year, and he is still saying, we will attain such and such and such and such. It was delayed because everybody, can point to
of course.
Yeah. Supply chain. Everybody talks about supply, especially the Gambia being a consumer, country. Everything we consume we bring from outside. So you can always blame, supply chain, especially vis-a-vis, some of the geographical and, geopolitical developments on a daily basis. This war in Iran, we do not know how it will impact, economies, in the near term.
Yeah,
you said this last year. How far have you gone in its implementation, rather than getting these declarations of intent year in, year out?
Absolutely. In fact, that is what I think should happen, so that he can really genuinely convince people that, look, we have delivered.
Yeah,
But then when it's all declarations, solemn declarations without implementation, it's really not doing good for the country, because the impact of your policy is really not being the impact of your policy is really not being shown to the people, because the SONA in fact should address government's policies on the conditions of the state. That is what it should. And they do not just make your scorecard. You don't just go say 90%, but also what policy
issues. If you've done 90%, it's okay. It's okay to reflect 90%.
Yeah, it's 90%. But then, what other policy matters do you wish to bring up to facilitate an accelerated achievement of the remaining 10%? And it should be that way. Because, I mean, it is the policies, implementation of the policies, or the designing of the policies that will really lead you to doing what you are doing.
We're talking to Alhaji Usainu Darboe, or Lawyer Darboe, of the United Democratic Party. He is with us until 11 o'clock, if we can get him engaged with some of your questions, suggestions, or just observations you make about, probably what he says during the next hour and a half. Let's talk about UDP, which is why you are here. What's happening with your party, Alhaji Usainu? I mean, we hear that, there's, internecine warfare, brother against brother, sister against sister. The center doesn't seem to be holding anymore.
Well, Peter, if the center doesn't hold, then things will fall apart.
Exactly. Well, you see where I'm going. That's why it's good to go to St. Augustine's High School.
Yeah. But Peter, let me say this. I think people have been saying that UDP, there's fratricidal war. In fact, they use war. Fratricidal war, internecine. I mean, UDP is rifted, is torn apart. Well, these are perceptions and, of course, opinions.
Perceptions, not reality.
Not reality. But, Peter, I am really happy that Gambian people are focusing on UDP. They are showing their concerns about this domestic squabble. I'll call it domestic squabble. That has taken within the party. They are concerned about it. That because UDP is their hope. So they do not want to see their hope shattered. That is why you have this. Who is talking about? Keba Mahdi and others. Nobody's.
Well, they are being talked about now.
Who's
NPP are talking about Keba Mahdi.
No, NPP. But what I'm saying is that ordinary Gambians. Yeah? Who, some commentators who are not known UDP supporters. They may be, and I do not even know if they are UDP sympathizers, are addressing this issue. They are addressing this issue because they are Gambians and they are concerned that their hope for to have Gambia salvaged is UDP. UDP is the vehicle through which this can be done. And they do not want to have their hopes shattered. Yesterday I watched Facebook, I don't know whether it was live or recorded, but my wife showed it to me. And this gentleman was lamenting, look, I have never voted for UDP. But really, the hope is for Gambia's hope is on UDP. So we want UDP to put the house in order so that our country can be redeemed from the current inefficient government. He claimed that he's not a UDP. So what I'm saying is that all these comments, for me, I'm very grateful to the Gambians who are making it. And it also tells me, as leader of the UDP, what I must do and what I must not do. So for me, I appreciate those criticisms, I appreciate those concerns. And I hope that we'll continue to have as many such views. Some people might think that they're negatives. No, for me they're not negative. For me it enriches my ability to really make informed decisions. And I hope I can have as many of these, or read as many of these as possible, or even reaching out to me personally. Because let me say that I think I am the most accessible politician in this country.
Well, to me you are. Yeah, every time I call you, you pick.
So.
Let's start with your must-dos. What must you do now in the wake of what you call, the squabbles?
Well, what I must do now is to ensure that there are no domestic, I'll call them domestic, there are no domestic squabbles.
In public?
Even internally.
Okay.
Even internally.
That would be a great achievement.
Even internally. Because contain it for it not to be public, you're really failing, because you never know when some loose cannon can really do something that you think ought to have been done internally. So making sure that these domestic squabbles, they do not even take place internally. We must agree that we can disagree on principles. As I have said, each and every member of the United Democratic Party who feels that you are capable to be the leader of the party or to be a flag bearer, I mean, you should. And I want, if I were not leader of the United Democratic Party and I belong to this party, I would one day want to be its leader. Because that is, for me, is the greatest badge of honor.
So it's okay to aspire to leadership.
It's okay to aspire to leadership. What is not okay is really to undermine each other. After all, we see in other countries, people vie for leadership of the parties. Yeah. People vie for position of the party. Once a leader is elected, everyone.
In England, we had the story of the Miliband.
The two brothers.
Yes.
Two brothers. In Africa here, something happening, or they will say, wow, need how many band for someone need like that. But because they define principles, they all have a vision for Labour Party which is different. So really, it's acceptable. And in the Gambia here, it has happened too.
Who and who?
In Gambian history, has happened too. There's late Omar Sise, Omar Toure, he's deceased. He contested against his brother, Sadio Toure, in Same district. Okay. And it was, some people thought that was, in our Gambian context, it was unacceptable. But then the two brothers, they are both educated, and they thought that this was something normal in politics. You cannot all be on the same page. And that, I say, we can have people in the UDP who aspire to become leaders of this party. And of course, for you to be leader of the party, you have to show the qualities. You have to really say, is it prepare? Maybe prepare yourself, or you must be doing things that will really make people start pointing fingers at you, or start to think that, look, we should really have this lady or this gentleman in mind. And Peter, I can tell you, there are hundreds of such capable and men and women of character in the United Democratic Party.
But only one can succeed you.
Only one can succeed.
And then the process of succession, I mean, a lot of people would say should have started, some time ago. I mean, okay, we might all want, person A to continue leading the party, but as we say, nobody is immortal. Long may you live, but, there will come a day when the party has to move on the new leadership.
Certainly. That is why you have
where is succession on your agenda?
That is why you have a lot of young people in the national executive of the party. That is why you have a lot of young people in the leadership of our councils in the National Assembly. You cannot, or I don't think it will be right for me as a leader to say, let's start saying that, look, Peter, I think Peter should succeed me. I don't think that will be right.
Who should do that? The executive?
The executive should do that. Well, the Congress.
Okay.
The Congress should do that. And I think it will also not be right for me to try and influence the decision of the Congress to say that this is my favorite. I cannot, and I should not do that. Well, I certainly admire all my young, I call them my sons and daughters. I have great admiration for them, for their ability, for their integrity, for their patriotism, and their love of the party. No, each and every one young person in our party believes in UDP. And they are all out to push the agenda of the United Democratic Party and nothing else. So you have that big pool from which you can select. leader. And of course, when the time comes, it will happen. Peter, I've said that, I will leave the United Democrat. I came into the United Democratic Party leader with grace. And inshallah, I will live with grace. And I wouldn't give a 6 months notice. I should give at least 2 years notice, so that those who really want to succeed me, can start doing their things, and whatever small domestic squabbles you have can be settled before we reach the day of selection.
Well, for the overly ambitious young ones, 2 years will be a long time, because 2 years will be past the 2026 elections. But let me just ask about, as a father, your relationship with your offspring. We have heard Rohey Lowe make statements. We've now had this brotherly, if you want to put it that way, exchange between Chairman Yankuba Darboe in Brikama and Mayor Bensouda in KM. What's your relationship like with your daughter, Rohey Lowe?
My relationship with all of them, with all three of them.
Let's take one at a time, because we have heard Rohey Lowe publicly complain that she felt at some point she wasn't getting the support from the party that she deserved. The party would even, put out statements about other issues, but not about her achievements, and even maybe the way she was being treated by central government.
Well, my relationship with Rohey Lowe, I think is very good. I know the statement she has made. She has regretted it.
Oh, she has?
She has regretted it.
She called you to apologize, or what?
She wished she had never made such a statement. You see, Peter, I'll not be here to tell you that, when Peter complains to me, this is what I do, or this is what I have done. I do not think that is the right thing. If anything is done, or if nothing is done, would be seen in how the person complained about has comported himself or herself since then. For me to come here and say, look, Peter, this is what I have done with this particular issue, this is what I have done with that particular issue, it's really to be engaging Rohey in absentia, and then, telling people things, that,
Well, she engaged you in absentia when she was on on mainstream media, talking about the party.
You see, we are both levels, but our level of leaderships are not the same. So I should certainly not do that. Okay. I know that what Yankuba also has probably regretted what he has said, and he wished he had never said those things. That I know that.
Well, he should come out in public and say, "Well, I wish that I never said those things."
Yes, Peter. A lot of things have happened. When people should say publicly, but I have dealt with very sensitive issues. My party members making certain utterances in public, not necessarily about UDP, but about other institutions and about other people, and I have dealt with them in ways that I think is more effective. Because in the first place, what I tell all of them is that you are aspiring leaders. You are not only aspiring to be leader of the United Democratic Party, but also leader of the Gambian people, president of the Gambian people. You are all aspiring. So your actions, your words, your statements, must be one that unifies people. You are not talking about Christians. You are not saying anything demeaning about Christians. You are not saying anything demeaning about Muslims. You are not saying anything demeaning about any tribe. Because after all, if you become leader of the United Democratic Party, you are going to lead all those people. That is what you aspire. So you must be a kind of father figure. I protest that on them, and certainly I think they have imbibed that. I think it has sat with them well. But then, as a father, you continue, to really guide, your, as you say, your offsprings, on the right path. If they want to go off track, I bring them on.
Okay. So let's assume they're all, back on track now with you. But, what could you have done, knowingly or unknowingly, to lead Yankuba to think that you favor Talib over him?
Well, I think really that should be for Yankuba to answer. As far as I'm concerned, I give each and every one of them your due. None of them invites me to an occasion that I have snubbed. I've always been at the occasions. Look, I have gone to...
But have you invited one maybe to your home more than the other? Could Talib have visited you more than Yankuba?
In fact, it is that I don't invite anybody to my home. You come on your own.
Has Talib come to you more than Yankuba has done?
Yeah, Talib hasn't come to me, to my home, more than Yankuba has done. I have engaged with Talib more than with Yankuba in his capacity as the organizing secretary chairman. I have no choice. Anyone who occupies that office, I have to work with you.
Could it be he has seen, this, collaboration, whether forced on you or whatever, as the trigger?
Nobody can force anything on me.
Well, when I say force, by virtue of the fact that you have to work, side by side. It's like me and Jibril. Whether I like Jibril or not, the position he holds, forces me to work with him on a daily basis.
Well, I'm not sure whether that's a good example, because maybe Jibril is employed. Maybe Jibril is employed.
It's paid employment. Talib is also employed to be social secretary.
No, Talib is elected by Congress.
Oh, okay.
He is elected by Congress.
Even stronger, which means that even if you want to get rid of him, you cannot. Yes, exactly.
I cannot. Yankuba is elected by Congress as the deputy chair of the Media and Communication Unit. So when it comes to media matters, they are the ones they are the ones I deal with. Rohey is the second deputy vice president of the national vice president of the party. When it comes with matters that the presidency of the party should deal with, they are the ones that I deal with. So I work with each and every member of the executive in the role in which you have been elected by Congress. And I cannot really get rid of anyone. If that has to happen, there has to be a meeting of the Central Committee to really decide on that. Not even the executive can do that. So if I relate with Talib, it's always in relation to that. But to say personal visits, no. Maybe there are some that I have had more personal visits from. Waiting for them to come for lunch. I have had that with some.
Okay. For a very long time, older persons wished, and younger persons, the youth demanded for an opportunity, to be in leadership in the various political parties, and obviously the United Democratic Party has seen a lot of, young blood in its leadership. Are these some of the challenges that come with having to deal with younger people, intergenerational interaction, if you like? You would have no problem with the Lamin Manes and the Larry Cises, but the young people, may be more ambitious and less patient, than older persons.
Well, you are right. And but that is why the leader should really make sure that what he tells them and how he behaves towards them would in some way tame their ambitions. Yes, in some way tame their ambitions. Yeah. As I say, I have no problem with any young person wanting to be leader of the United Democratic Party. I have absolutely no problem with it. What I have problem with is how you go about
trying to become leader.
Trying to become a leader. That's the only thing I have a problem about. And you see, if Yankuba is selected as a leader of the United Democratic Party or flag bearer, and let me make this thing clear. Leadership of the United Democratic, the fact that I'm party leader and secretary general does not entitle me or does not make me automatically the presidential candidate. Because I don't have to be. After all, Adama Barrow was selected as presidential candidate for UDP while I was still the party leader. So there has to be that distinction. Holding the position of Secretary General and leader of the party does not automatically...
In that case, why did you not allow him to be the flag bearer in 2021? He wasn't threatening your position as leader. He only wanted to be the flag bearer of the party while you continued with leadership of the UDP.
Well, that's another story for another day.
Well, we won't get to here that easily. So let's treat that question now.
Well, I think he started it from the wrong footing. When you start saying anyone who wants to be president or presidential candidate, that's a coup d'etat. That in the United States, the presidents are always the flag bearer for their parties. But you have forgotten the fact that you have resigned from that party. So you are not a member of that party. So you cannot claim association in any way, political with the party. You have resigned, you are an independent candidate.
Had he not written to reapply for membership?
He has not written.
Oh.
He has not written to apply. I know some people really wanted him to reapply.
Why didn't he?
I don't know. And you know one of those people,
who?
I wouldn't mention his name, is one of them that has been expelled. Among the 4 people that has been expelled.
Kebalang?
No, I wouldn't mention the name.
Could be Kebalang.
No, Kebalang is the deputy speaker. No, Kebala is a nominated member, rather. Kebala is you are talking of Keba Madi.
Keba Madi.
No, I certainly wouldn't mention the name. But one of them had written in those days to say that allow Barrow to apply to return to the UDP. It was probably discussed with him, but he never did. But then he goes out to say that, look, if anyone wants to run as president against me, that is coup d'etat. In the United States, presidents are renominated. I said, but you are wrong. After all, Jimmy Carter, Ted Kennedy was run against Jimmy Carter. Lyndon B. Johnson before he stepped down, people are running against him. So those people in America, who were there, they do not understand how American politics really works. They think that always it is the president that comes in as the nominee of his party. Yeah? But that is it. If he had done things in the right way, we could have done. But then that's okay. And I think that is good for the country.
So you have this outburst from Yankuba Darboe, and then you came out with a statement reaffirming your intention to seek nomination to run in 2026. Is that effectively saying everybody else should, back off? That I will be the UDP flag bearer again in 2026?
No, it's not. Because if you read the entire statement, you cannot just pick out that to say that's probably getting people. The entire statement, we still encourage people. We said that it's open. And I wish that when UDP invites applications, and that just shows you that the being leader does not automatically are there. If UDP opens up invitations for leadership of the party, I wish other people can apply. I wish they can apply. Yes.
This is your opportunity, to answer this question on the radio, but I understand, in the immediate aftermath of your statement, your house got flooded, with people who came, to show solidarity with you, their support. And I remember it was during that period that I was, calling you, trying to set up this interview, and it was so difficult to reach you. And then, when I got to Larry Cisse eventually, and I said, look, I've been calling Alhaji Usainu Darboe for the past 2 days without reaching him. He said to me, that man cannot even have time
I wasn't even taking my meal
to rest. That's what he told me.
Yeah.
How much reputational damage do you think the outburst has done to the UDP?
Well, I do not think it has done a reputational damage that is irreparable. I don't think so. You see, Peter, it is in the majority of cases, it is the leader who shapes the direction of the party. All those who have known me, I'm not vaunting now, but all those who have known me know that Usainu Darboe doesn't think tribal. He has no tribalist inclination in him. His marital life exposes that the uncles of all his children are people who do not belong to the Mandinga tribe. And these are the children. They are Buffet's nieces. How can Usainu Darboe be tribalistic?
Or anti-one religion.
That's right. And Nandimai's children, their uncles, are the Suleiman Sinyans. In fact, Suleiman Sinyan's father, Alai Lamin Sinyan, I was very, very close to. I had done a lot of things for him. I was very close to, not favors, no, but asking me to run errands for him. Yeah, I've done that for him. It was his father, Suleiman Sinyan's father, Lamin Sinyan, who gave Maimunandur to me as my wife. And then that put me, all the Sinyanian, Nduren, became my in-laws. And M.E. Jal of blessed memory was one that I had a lot of personal contacts with me. After the 1981 rebellion, and I started defending some people, there was a lot of concerns raised within their family, and he made them understand that I was doing what was required of me professionally. If I accept a brief, I cannot return it, unless there must be some very good reasons for it. I have, quietly been mentored by people like Uncle A.J. Senghor. And Maud Senghor came into the house and found me several times, sitting with the old man. I have been mentored with, of course, P.S. Njai. That's a matter of public knowledge. He was my father. How can I be tribalistic? Even my father had 2 fuller wives, and they are the ones who currently we call our mothers. Nigeriatu and Nansali, they are all fullers. I have my nephews who have got married into Jola families. How can I, for any moment, think tribal? But these are detractors. And in politics, the dirtiest things can happen. And this started in Jammeh's time. because they thought that, this, the tribe I come from was a big force. Look, even during Jawara's time, this issue of we should not be tribalist and so forth, because, and when that is said, references have been made to Sheriff Dima. In Jammeh's time, when he goes to Jimara and talks about tribalism, he's referring to Mama Kande. And when he goes to Salem, he's referring to Hamad Ba. So it's a cheap, propaganda tool, which can also be very damaging. But I just want to let the Gambian people know that if you reject Ousainou Darboe, you just reject him because he as a person, that's what you really rejecting, but not because of his stance. I have never advocated for tribalism, and I will never advocate for tribalism.
I don't think, I stand to be corrected when people say the UDP is tribalist or the UDP is an insulting party. They are, aiming such criticism at you per se, but rather, at the grassroots. I've sat here and said that I've equally been insulted, by NPP as well as UDP people, but not the people at the top. I don't have any problem with NPP people at the top. Neither do I have problems with yourself, and your executive members. But how do you rein in? And you use the right word at the beginning, loose cannons of the party who assume no leadership in the party, but just feel that thanks to social media now they can sit somewhere and insult somebody they don't like, somebody they've never met, just because somebody is sometimes even said to have said something about the party.
Well, our media committee, particularly in diaspora, they are working. In fact, I have had several meetings with them, and they are doing a lot as far as diaspora is concerned to contain that type of what I would call unacceptable behaviors. In fact, when I went to Manchester, I think 2019 or so, in my statement, I picked up something from Michelle Obama. He said, look, if they go low, you go high. And I tell them, that look, whatever insults are rained on me, just accept it as a cocoa butter that you can use, to really apply on your skin and forget about it. Then tell them, and I tell them, Allah enendiro kentela Allah ta ko tulolomu ali albalo muala ali nyinya. So they should ignore it.
But it's costing the party.
No. But then I know it's costing the party. But then there are others who pretend to be UDP. And do these things. In fact, sometimes, put people in UDP t-shirts. Because in fact, in Jammeh's time, it was very
commonplace.
It was very frequent. And you know who helps them in doing that?
No.
The state agents, service agencies. They done the notorious NIA, really? And now SISS.
Really?
Oh yes. They do that. In fact, the day I was arrested, as a gentleman, he had a UDP t-shirt on. He came into
the
my
day you
house.
were arrested by Jammeh.
Jammeh, yeah. Came to my
the beginning of events that led eventually to his downfall.
To his downfall, yes. This gentleman, when I was giving the press conference, he came there. I was saying, we cannot accept this. Mr. Darboe, you are our leader, this and that,
So do you think that practice still continues? Some of these people who are insulting are actually agents planted by the SIS?
Agents planted. Agents, if not by the SIS, but by the party.
Which party?
NPP.
Oh.
NPP. Yes, NPP. Yeah. And this gentleman, the police arrested him. Because the police didn't know, the PIU didn't know what his role was. Yeah. And in fact, he sustained injuries on his head. Yeah.
And that was the mark for you?
No. Because when they came, he was in the hall where we were seated, on the bare floor, and they just came in, picked him out, and he never came back. He never came back.
Do you know what happened to him?
Of course, his mission was accomplished, to come in, stir trouble, and pretend that he was UDP, so he didn't have to come back. Yeah. He was a tall, well-built person. That was happening. In our meetings, people come there and then pretending to be, Darboe, and then creating commotion so that even the delivery of our statements was interrupted. And it's happening. Look, we said that this NPP has learned a lot from the Jammeh way of doing things.
Not from the UDP way of doing things.
Certainly from the UDP way of doing things. I say this, President Adama, I'm sure he's listening because he knows that I'm coming here. So he says, let me see what my father is going to say. President Adama, there was not a single executive committee meeting that I remember which he was absent. And he knows our core values. And he knows why we were fighting the Jammeh administration. Not because Jammeh was a soldier, not because Jammeh was a Jola, but because the policies that they have, the human rights abuses, the misuse of public resources. When you go on the meet the farmer store, those type of ambience, using public resources for no justification. The use of public officials, permanent secretaries, who are forced to go to their family members and tell them, well, if you want me to continue in my employment, you have to vote APRC. That is what they were doing.
But that has stopped now, hasn't it?
But if it has stopped, you have now put people on salary doing that.
Who?
The campaign managers. He's on salary. The national, all those people. Sekumbano, political advisor. If you're a political advisor, you should be advising.
You're saying their salary is coming from the GLF, the Gambia Local?
It's in the budget.
Okay. Yeah, taxpayers' money.
Taxpayers' money.
And you're saying that's illegal?
It is a principle, it is an issue that we had fought against. That permanent secretaries who are employed or civil servants who are employed by the government of the Gambia cannot go out and campaign for the APRC. We were all united on that.
Are the permanent secretaries going out and campaigning for NPP or Adama Barrow?
Well, I know of a few permanent secretaries who really have done their bid for Barrow, and that has earned them probably a more enhanced, positions.
How unfortunate.
In the
But the question before this was, is it illegal that the advisors to the president, including the campaign manager, are paid by the Gambian taxpayer?
Well, you see,
it may be wrong, but is it illegal? Is what I'm trying to get.
Unfortunately, that was not an issue that was taken up for the court to make a pronouncement on that.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it was not.
So then it can't be dismissed as illegal.
Yes.
Okay. All right. We're talking to Alhaji Usainu Darboe. Actually, he needs no introduction, but it's just the way radio and television goes. At some point, you have to identify your guest. It's Coffee Time with Peter Gomez. We are grateful to all our sponsors. Let's now go to part 2 of this conversation, which is, listeners' questions. My question today to Alhaji Usainu Darboe, UDP flag bearer and political veteran. Under your long-standing leadership, Mr. Darboe, the United Democratic Party appears increasingly stagnantly anchored in the politics of the past, resistant to generational renewal, and built more on personal loyalty than a forward-looking national vision. Once a formidable force for democratic reform, the UDP now risks transforming into a symbol of political nostalgia rather than a catalyst for national progress. Can a party that resists internal democracy under your leadership truly be trusted to safeguard national democracy if elected to power?
Well, I like the diction, very, very nice diction, very nice English language. But you see, this, I think, the questionnaire really misses things out. Do you think somebody like Ibu Mane would just have personal loyalty? His membership of the United Democratic Party, do you think it will not be informed by the policies? Amatal, Lamin Mane, Larry Sise, a lot of others, and in diaspora. You think it is personal loyalty, not the policies of the party? But I appreciate his comment. But let me say that I think he does not really know the internal workings of the United Democratic Party. And if you do know the internal workings of the United Democratic Party, you would not be thinking about why is there not internal democracy. After all, at every Congress, people vie for position. You can see Janjambure, it was heated. So that just shows that we abide by the rules, just as we abide by the constitution of the Gambia in the selection of our representatives, of our political leaders at various levels. This generosity, I have, not long ago, I have made a statement that, look, a UDP government will reveal the intergenerational nature. You'll have people, who are 60. You'll have people who are 30. You can even have people who are
in their 20s.
Yes. In their 20s. And we have a lot of such capable people within the party, people in their 20s. Look, when I see people like Ismaila Fadera win awards, he's one of our youths, I pound my chest in pride. Say, well, these are the young people who are going to take over from me. And you have several of them. When I see young people like Binta Senghor, young girls like Binta Senghor.
What does she do?
She's a counselor. She's the president of the female youth wing.
Okay.
And by the way, it is United Democratic Party that has really instituted that, to have female youth wing in the party. And also, let me tell Peter, to also have a disability wing. Oh. People different there. We have it. We have a president of the disabilities wing of the party, and have them in the national executive as well as the central committee, because this should be an all-inclusive party. And then you think that because I'm limping, I don't have the brain? No.
Well, I argue that all the time.
No.
I am limping, but who can?
Yeah, who can say
I don't have a brain?
Who is more competent, more capable than yourself?
Maybe 100, maybe thousands, millions of them are there.
Maybe I'll make you use of information. but Peter, what we are saying is that this issue of really giving young people, yes, we have always been working towards that, and I think it will come. I think it will come.
Okay. Yeah. Good morning, Uncle Peter. I like Bakari Kebaji and Fatou Cham. They are bold and truthful. We are again disappointed in Barrow and his government. How can you use hundreds of millions to drill something you didn't confirm if it existed in the first place? Too much waste in this government. Gambia government is sad and full of selfish greed and dishonest people. They were talking about the $100 million the president reportedly included in his statement to drill for oil. Unfortunately, oil was not found. They're saying, why would you spend so much money just to prospect for oil when you weren't sure if it was going to yield anything? What do you think about such expenditure?
Well, spending on the drilling, I don't think that is wrong.
Okay.
It may be the amount. Maybe that's also depended on how effective our negotiators were. Yeah, I think it depends on that. But obviously, when you are not certain of the existence of any mineral deposit of any kind in any area, you really have to do exploration, and that exploration carries with it some cost. So for me, I do not know why $100 million was really spent on the drilling. It could be if oil was found, we would have forgotten about that $100 million to say that, well, it was money well spent. But of course, in every exploration, you either discover what you are really looking for, or you don't discover anything. So I want to suggest to President Barrow that in the future, when these types of contracts are being negotiated, they should really make sure that, in fact, they dictate, that they dictate the terms of the negotiation. They dictate the clauses that should be there. They just don't take this international agreement, that you said, well, this is the template, and then just accept that. No.
Somebody has a very humorous way of asking a question. Good morning, Peter, and good afternoon from China. Well, the price of bread will go up to $12 in next week, and I feel sorry for the Darboe Kunda because they love bread so much so that they built their own bakery in Bansang. So what does he think of the 20% increase in the price of bread?
Well, we certainly built a bakery in Bansang to take care of the Kamaras, the Javiers, and the Kasamas. That's what we have done. But again, yes, the price of bread be increased. I think maybe that's an area. If government was to subsidize, I think that they ought to subsidize the flour factories, so that the cost of living, you don't have price control, but that could help to keep the price of bread stable, and you could keep it at $12, at $10, not have it increased. I think that's what they should be thinking about. Yeah.
Good morning, Peter. I am certain many followers of the Gambian political scene and Coffee Time with Peter Gomez are equally happy as I am that you have veteran lawyer and politician, UDP leader A&M Usainu Darboe on the program this morning. I have one question for Mr. Darboe. Will Mr. Darboe accept that President Adama Barrow was encouraged and emboldened to stay beyond the 3 years that were agreed upon in the 2016 coalition agreement, upon which he, Barrow, campaigned on and got elected because of statements made in public by Mr. Darboe himself and other members of his party? You remember saying that if anybody was to bring up the issue of 3 years, Barrow himself didn't have to worry about it. You were still in government. That it was you yourself they would have to contend with.
That's a misrepresentation of facts.
Okay.
And it's a misrepresentation by my detractors.
Okay.
Let me say let me say this, Peter.
Yeah.
You see, when those coalition issues, I won't call agreement because I've not seen any agreement.
Okay.
When those
issues, yes,
coalition issues were being discussed, the participants, I believe, did not have any confidence that Barrow was going to win. So let's put 3 years. But before that coalition was formed, Aissatou Touré, had launched the campaign for the attainment of her presidential ambition. And she said, I'll serve for 5 years. And I leave. My brother, my good friend, Khalifa, when he launched his campaign, I believe at Kairaba, he said, I would serve for one term of 5 years. So all these key people in dealing with that coalition issues knew that 5 years is what is really provided for by the Constitution. And you say, Peter, you want to really bring about constitutional reforms. You don't start doing by violating the Constitution, which you really want to reform for it to serve the people better. You don't start by violating it. Look, when NAD was formed in 2006, It was 5 years that was put there. And in fact, that was the template. If I were there, I would have used the NAT template. So that there's no issue of whether there was an agreement or there was no agreement. We would have used that. But Peter, what I said, that I have not seen any agreement that Barrow that Barrow will serve Barrow will serve only 3 years. And I said, look, if anybody has that agreement, please produce it, and we will test its constitutionality. As a lawyer, I think I was speaking right. And not only as a, but as a senior, one of the most senior lawyers in this country, I shouldn't be playing politics with the law. I shouldn't be trying to thwart the Constitution. I mean, I'll be told, what type of a lawyer are you? I said, bring it. Bring the agreement, and still now. I have not seen that agreement. I had one time on this program, you said that my friend Halifa has a blueprint of it, and I want to see it. And honestly, if I see it, I will come to the Gambian people and apologize.
Okay.
So it's not correct that I said that, Barrow, you'll forget. I did say that, if that agreement exists, let it be brought out, and we can test its constitutionality. And it's a position I hold. And after all, practically, was it possible to have a new constitution drafted within that 3-year period? Was it possible to do all the needful things that you need to do, the TRRC, all these commissions? Was it possible to do it within 3 years? Practically, it was impossible.
Okay.
But as I said, I don't think anybody had any confidence that Barrow would win that election. I said, let us people see us together. That's my view.
Hi, Uncle Peter. Is Lawyer Darboe against the subsidy by World Bank on electricity meters to rural households? This can be a tool used against him by the NPP during campaign. Are you against the subsidy on electricity by the World Bank, giving out these meters free, as you said at the beginning of the program?
No, I'm not saying that I'm against the subsidy. I'm saying that NAWEC is a profit-making institution. Look, let me tell you this. We have had gifts to the government by international organizations, and then the institutions that they should utilize it. There was an on-lending agreement. I was lawyer for Gamtel. There was a time, Alcatel, all the good equipment they had.
French company.
Yeah. I mean, it was it was initially a loan, but then later converted to a grant to the government of the Gambia.
Okay.
And the government of the Gambia had an on-lending agreement, so that the equipment would still be used. Although they were supposed to be free, they will still be used by Gamtel, but Gamtel will pay for them. You could have an on-lending arrangement on this issue. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Hi, Uncle Peter. After hearing the UDP leader's analysis on this SONA, it seems like the president has not said anything good because he has downplayed everything. My question is, if he should be the president, how will he conduct this SONA? And what advice does he have for the president to work on for his next SONA? And this is from Mohammed Cham from Sinchu, Alaji.
Well, I have not downplayed everything. I have not said that he has said nothing. What I said, look, this is what I would have done, in addition to what he has said. It's not that, for instance, agriculture. I said, look, what he has said in agriculture, I would have told the Gambian people that we are taking $50 million and putting it in agriculture. This is what I'm saying. I'm not saying that he has not said anything. Yeah? I mean, what I'm saying is that he has not said sufficiently what Gambian people need to hear and what ought to be done for Gambian people. This is what I'm saying.
All right. Good morning, Uncle Peter. Can you please ask Ba if he had a chance to personally pick a successor, who is his main choice? Of course, he has already said that he can't select one from the other, but he is also human and must definitely have private thoughts about his successor.
Well, if I would do that if I know who are really aspiring. If who has declared his intention. If I know those people, then certainly I can make a choice. Because I wouldn't say Ismaila Fadera when I do not know whether Ismaila Fadera wants, in fact, to be leader, and whether, in fact, Ismaila Fadera also has the ability to get the people united behind him. Yeah.
I didn't hear you mention Rohey Lowe in that answer, but here's a question about her. What is his take with regard to the local government commission? We have heard from several witnesses showing the Lord Mayoress incompetence and so many fraudulent activities within the BCC. I, for one, have never seen any comment from the UDPians, and that is worrisome.
Well, it will be worrisome to him, because as far as I know, the commission is a quasi judicial body, and the matters before that body, I think, should not be subjected to any comment. But then, if he wants, I will reluctantly say that yes, we have started seeing the commission probing into areas that are outside their mandate. The nomination by Rohey Lowe of the councillors is completely outside their mandate. The last nomination. But why didn't probe into that? It just shows the objective for which this commission is set up. Rohey is giving evidence, so I would advise the gentleman to listen carefully to the answers that Rohey is going to give, and not to be prejudiced, not to really find her being involved in fraudulent activities, because when you say a person is involved in fraudulent activity, it means a lot. So that we should be careful with the words that we use. But I advise him to really listen to the answers that Rohey has given. And also, you must understand one thing, that those witnesses who are giving some kind of adverse evidence against Rohey has not been asked by the commission to come and ask those people. Since it's a fact-finding commission, you want to make sure that as they say, their statements, are checked by Rohey, and Rohey put questions to them.
So you want Rohey to be given the opportunity to cross-examine them? To cross-examine them. Yes, okay. To cross-examine them.
Okay. Yes, right. and then you'll be beating it on the anvil of truth. Yeah.
Okay. We said questions and suggestions. Here's a long one. Good morning, Uncle Peter and our own Baba. I'm always happy to hear his voice. Whenever he speaks, you can see the leadership quality and wisdom in him. I'm urging all Gambians to rally behind Mr. Darboe and UDP to vote for them in 2026. I'm also urging my fellow youths to ignore suggestions that Mr. Darboe is old and he contested many elections without success. I believe the people who also said this should also tell people under what circumstances and who did he contest those elections against before 2016. There was no spot counting before 2016, and I still believe that was one thing Jammeh still regretted for bringing spot counting into the equation. I also believe youths should be giving chance to lead, but everything has a time. The way Gambia is now, we need an elderly man with great experience who can reconcile the country. And after, we can give chance to youths. Also, there are lots of positions in the government where young people can have more impact than the presidency. And it's the same youths who have been jumping from one political party to another since Jammeh time, but none of the politicians we called old have been ever motivated by positions or money to leave their parties and support the incumbent. And it's only in the Gambia where I see opposition joining the incumbent before presidential election. I think the youth should take their time and work hard for the future. Mr. Darboe is my choice of candidate unless the selection committee didn't select him. And I have already started my campaign for him a long time ago. Wish you long life, good health and prosperity. May God give us long life to witness 2026 elections. This is from Wandifa Bajo, England, Nottingham. I am a card-carrying member of UDP. I have just renewed my membership card last month. I love Mr. Darboe. so much, and he even sends me, a copy of the membership card. You can
yes,
see.
I can see it. I can see it. That's right.
From there.
Yes, that's right. Thank you very much, Mr. Baja. I appreciate that very much. Appreciate it.
Wandifa. Do you wish that there are more Wandifas in UDP?
Oh, there are several thousands of Wandifas.
Wandifas, okay.
Thousands of them.
Let's move on. Good morning, Peter. Thank you for the wonderful program. Your guest has contested many elections without success. The decision is UDP's to select a flag bearer, but they need others to win. Can they listen to voices outside the party in picking a candidate who appeals to a much wider base?
Well, I appreciate very much your views, your opinion. When you say a candidate that is appealing to a much wider base, what is your criteria of determining that this candidate appeals to a much wider base? Is it because this is Usainu Darboe? Because whichever candidate UDP puts forward is going to sell United Democratic Party's manifesto. And I think the person who is making that comment appears to be an educated person. And I think your choice of a president should depend on the programs, the content of his manifesto, rather than on the person, whether he's short or he's small,
he's tall.
Or he's tall. I don't think it should be. And I want us Gambians to start, drifting away from this politics of to individualize politics, to look at the person's face and say, he's my favorite, that we went to the same school, or we belong to the same club. I don't think that should inform our decision in endorsing any candidate. Look at the program there. Can anybody tell me that what UDP is selling to the Gambian people is the right policy, is the wrong policy? If you tell me that, then we will re-examine our policies and then probably come out with something that will meet your admiration. But gentlemen, I really take note of what you say. Yes, I have contested several times. Do you know the current president of Zambia, Hichilema? Do you know how many times he has contested? He contested 5 times and won at the 6th time. Abdullah Wada, he was contesting against President Senghor, until about 2000 when he succeeded. So the number of times when a person has contested, I don't think should be a determining factor. And you also have to understand the environment in which those contests took place. We have all agreed that there was mock elections that took place here. I protested in 2011 when the chair of the Independent Electoral Commission said, thank God, he will no longer be qualified to contest. You see that. And I made a public protest against it. And I said, look, that just shows that, all these elections were not being done properly. You see, the only chair, I have respect for all the chairmen. But the person I really had respect for is Bishop Teliver Johnson. Of his pleasure, may God receive him in the highest of heavens.
Why does he stand out, among all the others?
Bishop, in the first place, this on the I think was it on the spot counting. He fought in a chieftaincy election. He advocated for the establishment of a democracy fund. He also advocated for vote for the diaspora. He did that, but it all fell on deaf ears. So I have great admiration for him.
Let me ask you about, the prospect of there being a grand opposition coalition.
Well,
because everybody agrees now, no single party can win an election.
Well, yes. Okay, on that proposal, I want to align myself with my Jarbat said here at one time, Safal, that look, to say that no single party can win an election, I think it's a mistake. a single party can win elections in this country, provided that the people start looking or seeing the contestants in their individual and personal capacities, what they represent, or what they want to bring to the for the nation. If you only focus on that, then a single party can defeat any sitting government in any place. But of course, a grand alliance. Well, I don't. Maybe if we are happy, we won't call it grand. We'll avoid use of the word grand because we don't want to be copying anybody.
Yes, copycat.
Yeah, we don't want to do that. But for us, we have always been open to a united front against the Jamadan, and we'll be willing to work with anybody, to ally with anybody, to really make sure that this inefficient, insensitive government, corrupt government, is thrown out of power. And I'm using my words, very advanced, particularly on corrupt people. If you look at the anti-corruption, the Anti-Corruption Act, there's a section there that says that all allegations of corruption taking place before, I think, 30th January 2024 may not be subject to investigation by the Anti-Corruption Commission. So that all the corruptions that you did between 2017 to 30th January 2024, kaput, no way.
It's like they say, in okay.
You have been protected. Is that the type of government that the Gambian people who want to vote for again? I don't think so. And also, the government that advocates that when members of the executive vacate their office, they cannot make a declaration of their assets, but they want members of the National Assembly and judges to do it. Those people who do not award contracts, I do not see any judge who awards any contract in this country. I do not see any assembly that awards contracts in this country. They would probably do their agreement and bring to the National Assembly for ratification. They have to declare their assets when they leave office. But you, the president, and all your ministers will not be obliged to do so. And you think that this is a government that is serious about fighting corruption that is eating into the fabric of our society, destroying our society. I want to tell people that, look, they should not look at Hussein Darboe, they should look at what Hussein Darboe stands for, and then decide to vote for Hussein Darboe.
Let me press you further on this issue of, corruption, which naturally leads us to, the constitution debate. The UDP, not just Hussein Darboe, the UDP is opposed to the 2024 draft. They want us to go back to the 2020 draft. And the government is saying the 2020 draft was rejected. So we can't go back to something that was rejected. And we know that even some of our development partners are openly campaigning for the 2024 draft constitution to be given a chance. You don't have the numbers in the National Assembly, to outrightly dismiss the 2024 constitution. But given the threshold, you could block its passage, and you are sworn to blocking it. People will say, well, they really don't mean change, because, for one, there are two fundamental things that even the draft, the 2024 draft, guarantees Gambians. Term limits and,
diaspora voting.
Exactly.
I know, that's their ace. But does the 2020 draft not contain that? Does the 2020 draft not contain that? It contains it. With other better clauses. It contains it. So that is a bait they are putting out. And I think that is very dishonest. I think those who are advocating for the passing of the 2024 draft, let me say, except for the Human Rights Commission, because they have shown
The UNDP, if you were to become president, you will have to work with the UNDP as a development partner. The UNDP is pro-2024 draft.
The UNDP is pro-2024 draft because they do not see the Gambia government wanting to bring the 2020 draft back. Because when they say you cannot bring the 2020 draft back, I think that is wrong. I do not see in the Constitution or in the standing orders of the National Assembly to say that when a matter is rejected, it cannot be brought back. I've not seen it. And I think the judge's remuneration bill was rejected when I think that has been, I think it has been brought back. So what are you saying?
Well, the argument is this is actually the 2020 draft brought back, in a different way.
It's not brought in a different way. After all, the 2024 draft does not have a provision for nominated membership of the National Assembly. You bring in a provision for a nominated National Assembly, and then you give yourself the power to dismiss any nominated member. You want to circumvent the Yankuba judgment. So that now, when we talk about separation of powers, the National Assembly, at least, some part of the National Assembly is now at the mercy of the president. And you think that's not a fundamental departure? The whole chapter on integrity and leadership, don't you think that is a complete departure, a fundamental departure from the 2020 draft? This is of corruption, of declaration of assets. Even the 1997 Constitution does have a provision for declaration of assets when one vacates office.
We never had that. We never had anybody declare assets.
Well, yeah, but what I'm saying, it does have. Yeah. So now that depends on implementation.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
It depends on the implementation. So when they tell me that these are the improvements in the 2024 draft, I say, but are you serious?
And when they try to sell it to you as the lesser of two evils,
as the lesser of two evils, which is the other evil? At least the Jamaican Constitution does not empower the president to dismiss a nominated member of National Assembly. It does not. At least the Jamaican Constitution does have a provision for declaration of assets by public officials. At least it does that. Yeah, I agree. It does not have term limit. It does not have diaspora thing. But then the 2020 that has. Peter, what can easily be done? Remove 2020 and put 2025. But it's just the date. It's just the date. Because if you are drafting if you pretend that you are drafting a new constitution, you will give it the year which you are presenting it.
Sure.
So because it's 2020, they think that it's 20. So you are bringing to 2020 draft. No, you are bringing back into the National Assembly a draft that was prepared for 2020, in 2020.
And for which we paid a lot of money.
For which $116 million. Yes. And I think really, President Barrow should be magnanimous to Gambian people and say, look, I cannot allow your $116 million to go down the drain like that. I cannot allow that. All advocates for a good constitution of the Gambia should really be telling President Barrow, please, let us do this. That is for the good of the country.
Do you think those 8 National Assembly members from your party originally who dumped the party went over and helped, vote it down,
They have paid the price for it.
Have they?
They have paid the price for it.
How?
Only 2 of them have returned to the National Assembly.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes.
Well, one of them was voted out and got nominated immediately again.
But again, that is how much President Barrow values the decision of the Gambian people. Here's a person who has been rejected. The constituency which he served for 5 years no longer believe that he's capable or he's fit to represent them. And then you turn around and say, definitely, I mean, it's really not respecting the opinion of the Gambian people. It may not be in the Constitution, as it was in the 1970 Constitution. A nominated that a person who contests an election and loses cannot be nominated. That was in the 1970 Constitution.
That was a good law. Huh?
Yeah, but then, even if it was not in our 1997 Constitution, the good practice is what we should really follow. President Barrow ought not have appointed her or nominated her to National Assembly.
Why are you avoiding her name?
Well, of course, we all know it. I mean, it is the former honorable member for Talini, Madam Fatimata Jawara. Yeah, certainly. Could have given her another appointment, that would satisfy her, that will really comfort her, that I've lost, but I'm still not. I'm still doing something for my country. Yeah.
You mentioned another, lady politician. Yankuba Jaite. Where is she?
Oh, she's around. She's She's deputy admin secretary.
Okay.
She's deputy admin secretary, and I guess she belongs to that core
that works behind the scenes. Is it? Because you don't hear her, like you hear the other young ones like Haji Sowane and
because he's admin secretary, deputy admin secretary, so they don't talk much. But I can tell you that even these constitution talks, she has always been part of my delegation. Yeah.
Fantastic. Let's go back to the questions. Good morning, Uncle Peter. My name is Lamin Jawara, former deputy party leader of the GPDP. Greetings to my father and everyone listening. Mine is more of a prayer for him to have long life, health, and be the Alcalo of number 1 Marina Parade soon. We love you, Baba. UDP is the most democratic party, Uncle Peter. Thank you once more, Ba Usainu. GPDP, that's Henry Gomez's
party.
Ah, yeah. Okay. What do you mean? He likes to take a poke at you, Henry. I mean, what do you think of his politics?
No. I always enjoy. I know those very flowery wolof language. I enjoy him. I don't want.
Mbahali Pooch Patch. There's nothing flowery in that.
Well, I mean the way he says it, Yeah, so I enjoy. Sometimes I enjoy those. I mean, I wouldn't call it comical, but I enjoy some of these things. But then that is all I have to say about him. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, there are so many messages. Some of them, of course, are still on the flag bearer thing, which I think you have dealt with already. Hi, Uncle Peter. If what Honorable A.N.M. Darboe said regarding the coalition agreement is the case, why did he make the turnaround to ask the president to honor the 3 years Jotna's request? Yes, if the president was constitutionally mandated to serve 5 years and couldn't do, fewer years, why did you, at a press conference, then ask for him to stick to the 3-year agreement with the coalition?
Let me first clear that it was not 3-year Jotna that informed any decision. I think that should be clear. This was an issue that was discussed at the level of national executive, and it took several meetings. Before a conclusion could be reached. Yeah? And of course, that had two choices. Either step up and do what is required of me as a leader, because this was the party's decision. I cannot ask any other person on an important issue like that. I cannot ask any other person, you go and address the press conference. For me, that will be abandoning my responsibility to the party, and that will be telling my party members that, well, if I disagree with you, I will not follow, I will not abide, but what you have decided, and that will be dictatorial. So I have the duty to the party to make that statement, even though the decision was against my own personal views. And it is not my personal views that really matters. It is what the party decides on. That is what matters.
Fantastic. I'll make this the final question because I have a final question myself. It's, 6 minutes to 11 o'clock, and we are definitely going to stop at 11. Hi, sir. Just an observation. Most times I feel like politicians, including Alhaji Usainu Darboe, talk about pumping huge amounts of money into things like agriculture, but they rarely break it down for us. Like, how exactly will that solve the problem? Even in this conversation, everything feels very general. I haven't really seen anything pointed out specific problems and explaining practical steps to fix them, especially when it comes to using tech or empowering youth. Would love to hear more concrete ideas. So if you get all the millions that the Barrow government is getting, and the Agriculture Ministry, under Dr. Demba Sabali is getting, how would you, make it work practically?
Well, you see, Peter, we don't have enough time because you will be dealing with segments.
Yes.
And you don't have that time. So after necessity, you have to make general statement. I wish we had an occasion when we'll be dealing only with agriculture. And then I'll be able to tell you what I would do in a particular area, what I'll do in a particular area, what I'll do in a particular area. For instance, I've already said that 50 million, I will use part of it to acquire fertilizer and give it to the farmers free. Of course, we have other ideas, the diversification of our everyday consumables.
And while you are at this, I remember when the president, and the higher education minister jointly, inaugurated that madrasa mainstreaming thing. A clip of you making something, a declaration to that end in 2021, 4 years ago. Was sent to me immediately.
And I was happy. And that World Bank was in, and Peter, let me say this. This is, my very honest opinion. I really like Professor Pierre Gomez. I like the way he's doing.
I hope you're not getting him sacked the next minute for praising him. You remember you once said whatever UDP praises,
I hope he's not sacked. But it will be difficult for them to come by somebody more competent. More engaging, with his ministry as Professor Gomez. When I heard that they were launching this and the World Bank was about it, alhamdulillah, this is an idea that UDP had put forward, that they had championed. Now, if the government, picks it up, I'll be too happy about it. In fact, at another occasion, I did say that the majlis, that is not the madrasa, but the majlis, they need to have social budget. You see, the outbreak of scabies in Bruford wouldn't have happened if at least those type of institutions do have some support, government support. But then they do not have any government support. They have children crowded, in a small room, sometimes they do not have a proper bath, So really, the outbreak of any disease or scabies, is coming and can happen. And I did advocate for that, And I also at one time, and I listened to one statement by Professor Gomez that they are going to have a student loan scheme, And I said, I told Lamin Manada, I'm happy because I was addressing a group of students, young people. I said, look, UDP would introduce a student loan scheme so that those whose parents could not afford the tuition fees can go in and apply on a merit basis to get the loan. And when I saw Professor Gomez making a statement to that effect, I said, we are thinking alike. We are thinking alike. And
so unlike Lamin Mane, who wouldn't offer free consultancy to the NPP, you have no problem discussing ideas that they can now latch on.
No, but if this
and it serves the whole country.
This is what I want for my country. And if they pick it, if I say this and they pick it up, I'll be very happy. I'll be very happy about that.
And just finally, there is a saying: "What doesn't kill you only makes you stronger." I mean, what do you think of how will the UDP emerge from this open? I'm going to use the word because you said that everybody was describing it that way. Warfare, among some of your younger executive members.
In fact, there has been more commitment, a reaffirmation of their unalloyed loyalty to the UDP, and everyone is working hard, and we are taking steps to make sure that 2026 is a UDP's year. That is what we are doing. And we're not just, this is not just being left to the structures. Youth groups, women groups, are doing this. And in fact, on the 28th, next Saturday this week, the women of the United Democratic Party is a tradition in the United Democratic Party. The women of the United Democratic are organizing a rally, a mega rally in Yundum, and I think all the speakers are going to be women.
Oh wow!
All the speakers are going to be women. Yes. So we are really, and when it's going to also be the opportunity for us to show to the whole world that yes, you do have, domestic disputes, domestic squabbles, and they resolve themselves in the home. Big brother and big sister, they fight. Nobody sits between them and reconcile. They reconcile themselves.
And this has happened in the UDP.
This has happened.
Fantastic. Alhaji Usainu Darboe, thank you so very much for coming.
You're welcome.
All right, that's the Secretary General and leader of the United Democratic Party, Alhaji Usainu Darboe, our guest today. Tomorrow, NPP. Now, I can't tell you just yet who is coming because it's between rather.
Yombani ngolumbele ya moi wala mojama ya moile bawo diamta angale kan wala. Basically, in the final analysis we could have done it in English. Balbutung intel nata si mole mulialon kon safoko imankarang. Sawon hindi no fang kafoko wala sa translate patili de minfo in summary balbutung kachani do metal ni koy bo kala be na kole yala. Balbutung we will find time ngaji be nim jamal be kachano la kachamu yalon kay wala kesu ko defense kachamu fanan fe mul yalon kolle kala moy ka bondi kibaro network kali tentu len kali jey kali nimbaral nal badi ma pamane ala baraka ba jalla la moy ko mala